hailing from the heart of SAP in Waldorf, Germany. Works on the TwoGo.com ride-sharing service for SAPs, and I'd like to talk about Git for you. So I'd like to introduce Dirk Lehmann.
Thanks. Bonjour, and welcome everyone. So the only thing now between you and your lunch is my talk. I know, so I try to make this fast. This is beyond source code versioning Git at SAP. My name is Dirk Lehmann. I obviously work for SAP, and I work for SAP since 14 years, about 14 years now. I started in development, mainly Java, and got into technical operations. And this is what I love to do right now. I'm mainly evangelizing DevOps for the enterprise, continuous delivery inside the company. And beside that, I try to keep the balls up in the air for this website, TwoGo.com. The cool thing about TwoGo is that it's the first SAP product that managed it to deliver daily. Now you might say daily, well, I will tell you now why we are so excited about this, how DevOps, continuous delivery, and all this helped us in that, and especially how GitHub Enterprise played into this. SAP, I'm not sure whether you're all aware of that. It's one of the companies that most likely you never really got in touch in first place with, but I'm quite sure any one of you touches products that run through SAP systems several times a day. We are the largest business software in the world. We are founded in 1972. Today we have about 75,000 employees, offices around the world. About 19 to 20,000 people actually do coding. And what we do in our core is we do mission-critical business software. So calculating your pay slip, managing your customer relations, your supply chain, all that stuff that enables our customers to produce movies, chocolate, beer, and you see the numbers, all these fancy things, they run through SAP systems. When we talk about development at SAP and about these 19,000 developers, you first have to understand that in the core, the SAP system, the business logic is implemented in our own proprietary language, which is called ABAP. ABAP is short for Advanced Business and Application Programming. And I confess, it looks a bit scary when you first look at it, and if you don't have any COBOL knowledge, because it's mainly influenced by that. It's about 13 years old, and it's extremely good and powerful in its own universe, in the SAP system. It lives there with an own IDE, not this one, this is ABAP in Eclipse, but it has its own IDE, version control system, lifecycle tools, everything you need to manage and control the software. Now you might ask why? Because we are shipping standard software. So the business software we are shipping most likely won't fit to your company enterprise when you buy it out of the box. You need to adapt it. And therefore we always ship the source code, which is written in ABAP, and you need to modify that, create new stuff upon that. So you basically do a lot of modifications into that. And so the oil rig, a hospital, or your car manufacturer, they're basically running all the same core, just with their own adaptations, right? So many of our 19,000 developers do ABAP coding. However, this is only the core of the SAP business systems, and there's a large ecosystems and solutions we are building around that, partners building around that. And this is in all kind of, let's say, more popular languages like Java, JavaScript, and what have you. And this is where Git comes into play. Currently about 13,000 of our 19,000 people have some account in one of our Git service in the enterprise. We started with Git quite early, we watched it quite early, and the first products we put upon that in 2009 already. as an alternative to our existing source code system. And at the same time, the company did some lean, agile transformation. And so we thought it's a good idea to put Gerrit on top of that. And now this was the part of my talk where I extensively wanted to describe the benefits of Gerrit and everything, but Dave did already that in the first talk, so this is where I can save time to get you faster to your lunch. So Gerrit is cool, we use that a lot, we do a lot of code review and all that stuff. And last year, 2014, we brought in like a second flavor of how we deal with Git in the company, which is an enterprise version of GitHub. And as I said, we like this agile kind of software approach. We immediately also created a tool for doing even more better code reviews on GitHub. And this is called Review Ninja. This is this ninja girl on the left side. It's also open sourced. If you want to try it out, it says sap.github.io. And so we are a lot into this agile thing, and this is also where my team comes into play because, as I said, we're doing a lot of on-premise software that we sell to customers that they run on their own side. But SAP decided that it wants to become a cloud company, and it needs a lot of cloud knowledge for that. And there, my team came into play that we said, okay, we started as a rather small team, and we need all that already several years ago. And then they said, okay, you TwoGo, you go ahead, and you try out all the things that we need for becoming the cloud company. So this is my team. This is what we do. We are doing a cloud-based ride-sharing service for the enterprise. So that's what the marketing people say. So basically, we take care about all the commuters that commute to work every day in the morning and go back in the evening. This is our main focus, what we are doing. And as I said earlier, the special thing about is that we do this continuous delivery, daily delivery approach, and we do DevOps. As I said, as one of the pioneers, or as the pioneer for SAP for practicing cloud methodologies. Why is that so special for SAP? Well, I basically said it. The stuff that we are doing is A, on-premise, B, it's mission critical, and C, there's a lot of modifications that the customers do on their side. So if we go out now and tell our customers, now every day you can download a complete new version of your business suite, they would go nuts because they have large landscapes, own IT departments that run their software just to ensure that all things work, and they have so many modifications done to that system that that would be hell for them. So we are used to have deployment cycles of once a year, maybe twice a year, the fast ones maybe once a quarter. So if I say we are doing this daily, this is like light speed for SAP, right? And so what I want to tell you now is a little bit how Git helped us in this approach. And yeah, this is we started as an internal project, and where we had a 3 weeks deployment cycle, which is also still quite fast, right? If you come from once a year, and then we put on continuous delivery, a lot of DevOps practices. We changed from traditional Scrum to Kanban-like approach, and underneath that, and that's what I will outline you, is many things from the GitHub Enterprise that we use. As I know you're all quite familiar with Git, I don't need to explain that to you. You can explain it to me, and you know it better. On continuous delivery, I'm not sure. Just the baseline about continuous delivery is that you want to get feedback fast along your development process. So why do you want faster feedback? Because it's less waste, because less waste is less cost, blah, blah, blah. You can read that. What has to stick in your mind is faster feedback is a good thing. You want to have fast feedback in order to deliver fast. And there's a term that continuous delivery created or brought in, just called the deployment pipeline. This is our deployment pipeline. I know sometimes it looks a bit similar, the labels are different, but this is how we implemented it. It's basically always dealing with the same thing. Code changes start on the left side, and you somehow try to manage the code to get fast to the right side to go productive, right? So if you look into this in detail. It all starts off with the developer that grabs a ticket or a story or a feature request or however you call it in your company. And this, all these stuff for us is stored in GitHub. And then he has a ticket, he knows what he needs to do, then he fetches all the latest changes from our central GitHub repository, and he starts working on a change, and then he does a local build with Maven. We use Apache Maven because it's a Java-based system. By the way, we are also using JavaScript and a lot of other technologies, but we all wrap them in Maven so that we have one tool to rule it all, so to say. And once the build and test is done, the change enters the so-called integration stage. This is where you find all kind of CI servers. We have a bunch of Jenkins servers here for us that basically pull down all the changes from the central GitHub repository. They build it locally to see how well all the changes play together. And once the builds and tests, they fire a whole phalanx of tests on that, and if all this succeeds, the commit gets a little green check mark in GitHub. If not, it gets a little red cross. This is what's happening in an integration stage, so mainly Jenkins CI servers, and this is also the place where code review takes place in GitHub. So in case everything went fine in the integration stage, it moves over to the acceptance stage. And acceptance stage is like our last line of defense. This is where we try to ensure that what we are about to push to production is really not breaking anything for the customer. So the main thing here is that besides we have a different set of tests there, that we use anonymized productive data here. Because we found out, and many of you might know that as well, test data is cool. Test data is great for testing fast and getting faster feedback. And remember, faster feedback is a good thing. We aim to get that. But test data has some problems because it's somehow artificial. Where production data is created out of real users, and they somehow manage it to sometimes create data that you don't expect or don't expect in that manner or in that way. That's one thing where productive data is different. The second thing is where productive data is different and it makes sense to test against it. To test against it again is that it comes in quite massively, right? It's complete larger set of data, and this is what we do here in this acceptance stage with anonymized data. This could also be done, by the way, on the left side. If the developer wants it on the commit stage, you can also operate with the same anonymized productive data, but usually test data is okay there. And once this is all set, the stuff moves over to the productive stage where the user can actually do something with the code, and we monitor that with all kind of solutions that we have in place here. And what is worth to mention here is that all our server setup is scripted. We use Chef for that. So basically all our server setup is scripted and versioned in GitHub. So is the complete server configuration in GitHub, and all the build jobs, the test jobs, the Jenkins setup, everything is scripted in Chef and in GitHub, or to put it shortly, we do infrastructure as code. That's everything. Now enough of this GitHub counting. What I want to outline with always emphasizing GitHub is that you see that it's quite central for us, and it's along the deployment pipeline. You basically always touch GitHub, and this is by intention. We always want GitHub to be the central hub for everything that the user or that the developer approaches first, where you can see the status. So it's not only as a version control system along the accompanying the deployment pipeline, but also in the artifacts repository. We use many artifacts repository like Nexus for deploying our WAR files and jar files that we're generating while code passes through the deployment pipeline. But also Jira, but also the issue tickets from GitHub. Now, one thing that you might ask yourself is how long does it take from left to right? Because I said we try to get this fast, and I also gave the answer. It's basically 1 day, and if you look at this into a branching model, this looks more or less like this. It's the dev branch, which is the top of it. This is where the developers work on, where they do their commit on. And this basically reflects the commit and the integration stage we saw earlier. Then we have the acceptance branch, which basically reflects this acceptance stage that we just saw. So a lot of QA stuff is going on here. And we have the master branch, which is representing the code which is currently running productively. And then we have also a git tag on the same commit. Now you might wonder why there is a difference between the acceptance and the master. This one commit that is going aside there. This is because there could be even more commits between the acceptance and the master if we do hot fixes. So if we do sub-daily fixes for the website because something is dramatically broken and we need to change that ASAP and we can't wait for the next day. Happens sometimes. But there's at least always one commit, which is as we are using Maven, and Maven has this snapshot idea and released version idea, and this is basically the commit where we remove the snapshot from the version, so where we set the release version of the thing. So that's mainly the main reason why there's a difference between the last thing that was qualified by acceptance and the master branch. Then every day at 1600, we basically brute force move acceptance to the same level as the dev branch. And then developers can continue in the dev branch and it moves up along, while the UA people, they ensure that the acceptance branch is stable because we want to deploy that on the next day, which is happening now. So once they give it a go, until the next day, latest at noon, we have to make sure that everything would work out fine. And then we deploy the stuff to the production system and automatically also set the master branch to the same level as the acceptance branch. We create the git tag with the new version, and this is more or less done completely automatically for us. So releasing the stuff and doing all the changes in Git is just pressing one button. So it's one, we have checked everything, and then you confirm, and then it's all going automatically. And then the next day, the thing goes on. What you can also see here is that we keep track of our versions again in GitHub. This is again, as I said, we try to concentrate everything somehow into the hub, GitHub. We also automatically create all the diffs of the commits that are between the versions, all the issues that have been closed. Everything is tracked down in the GitHub releases. So what I again wanted to try to show you is this idea that we are using Git, but the main idea is that we always integrate everything, all our tool, all our processes somehow with GitHub. Not that we completely put it on GitHub, but they all have to integrate somehow with GitHub because we want the developers and basically everyone in the team to always keep track of the changes, what's going on, what's coming next to the productive system, to find it in one place. And this is GitHub for us, or the enterprise GitHub. And that's why we love it. And so we do technical documentations also on that. And we basically use it for a lot of stuff. Also, for example, for our Kanban board. As I said earlier, I'm quite evangelizing this DevOps and DevOps for the enterprise in the company. We try to make transparent what we do, not only for developers and operations guys, but also for product managers, product owners, solution managers, translation people. So everyone who works on the product, they all work in this Kanban board, which is Hubbard. Hubbard basically takes the issues from GitHub and displays them as a Kanban board. It works quite nicely. Could be improved a little bit, but it works quite nicely for us. And again, it serves this purpose. Have everything in GitHub. This is the first place where people start and where they track all the stuff. And now the interesting point is that it's not only for the developers, but it's for everyone. And to have transparency for the solution manager, the whole management, salespeople, that they all see this, that they know where in the process is my request currently in processing. And so this is some kind of a, we try to use GitHub as some kind of a DevOps or social coding tool. And I remember that some years ago, GitHub, they gave themselves the social coding tag. I'm not sure whether that's still current. And I read a bit about social coding in preparation for this talk, and then I put in this buzzword cloud. And it's not negatively, it's all completely correct. I read a lot of interviews of people like how GitHub is emphasizing the collaboration between team members and pull requests, and we can build great communities and all that, and it's all right, it's all good, it's all fine, I sign it, it's just cool. But what for me, there's one thing which is basically missing. About the social coding thing of GitHub, where I think there is a hidden pearl in it that I see in our team, where I could say there's a little DevOps tool in GitHub, and this is this. It's not in the editor. It is the editor, because now you might say, well, I have Emacs and I use Vim, and they are more powerful than the editor, so why is he so happy with a simple editor? Because you are the developers. And my goal is to incorporate everyone in the team. So if there is some label misspelled in some language, or some glossary, or some term wrongly defined, in the past, our solution managers, or all the non-techie people, what did they do? They basically went to a developer and said, well, you have to change 80 files because this term, we defined it now different. Can you just change that? And then the developer went nuts, and then you say, you can do that by your own. And then he went along to the place of the manager and showed him, listen, this is the client, you have to install, this is how stuff works, and this doesn't work. Now with this simple, plain editor, what does our solution managers, program managers, translations guy do? They go there, they find the stuff, they click the edit button, they change their stuff, they press commit, it will be live tomorrow. So this is social coding as we do it. This is social coding in the times of DevOps, where we empower everyone to collaborate. And I promise to make it fast. That's it. So you have deserved now lunch. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dirk. I bet him that he couldn't say GitHub 40 times in one talk, and I lost. So.